Aloha, Ohana.
Aloha.
This week's video looks a little different. We have gotten so many questions about our surf prep since we bought it last December. So we want to go into lots of detail to review it for you and to see if this would be a great investment for you. This is the 3x4 electric race sander, and it comes as a total system with a ton of different sanding pads, mesh pads, extra sponges, and we'll go over all those details in just a little bit.
Although we love this surf prep, we know it's not for everyone. So we're going to be pointing out the things we like about it and some of the things we don't really like.
And some of the drawbacks. So you can come to the conclusion whether this is a good investment for you or not. So when you think of surf prep, I hope you think of sanding those round curves, right? Because that is what this is known for, and it does it well.
It does an excellent job on all those curved antique legs and other parts.
Rounded edges. So look how much sponge action you can get. It comes with a sponge pad and the sandpaper. So look at those details, how round you can go in there to sand around. But of course, if you're doing something with a little less angle, there's more options that are more firm. But that is what this surf prep is known for, and that is why people buy the surf prep, for that reason only. But it does a lot of other great things too.
Okay, here is our go-to sander. It is big, it's a random orbital, and it does a great job on flat, large surfaces, or large flat surfaces. But one thing it can't do, it can't get into the corners. And that's where something like this comes in handy. It's 3x4 and it's squared off, so it gets right inside of those tight corners really well.
So you can just see the size difference of these sanders, which also tells you that this one's a lot lighter. I mean, really, I'm getting a workout with my left arm at the moment. So this is great if you have vertical sides to be doing as well. I know a lot of people use it for kitchen cabinets because this is not going to wear your arm out like the orbital will.
It really makes a huge difference when you're doing the sides of a very tall piece. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, quick test. Which one do we think is louder? Much louder, so for prep wins for being much quieter.
I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Although I do think regardless we need to start wearing those big noise canceling headphones. We got reamed on that in a comment once.
It's true.
So of course everyone knows that this is amazing for sanding those curved rounded edges, but we also really like using it for sanding between coats. It has a very gentle, more control type of sanding, and it has sandpaper that is very, very super fine, which makes sanding between coats really quick and easy.
And for the same reason, it works great with scuff sanding when you want to get just that top layer of finish off.
So that your paint will adhere, absolutely. And one last way we really like using this is when we're dealing with thin veneer. It's so much more control, so I'm not worried about burning through the veneer, especially with the different power levels it has. So we have different controls for lower level or higher level, so let's go ahead and show you what the low level sounds like. And then to get higher, we're just gonna press the plus button a few times. And you can easily hear the difference there. It moves and vibrates at a much faster pace. So when you're on that lower level, you're gonna protect that veneer as you're sanding, and it's really good for that fine detail sanding because it can be so gentle.
And Danny, I think you forgot to show them that when this acts like a throttle, so you can go slow with it, or you can go fast. fast. Move fast.
So when you go to buy your Electric Ray Surf Prep sander, you have two options. One is the one that comes compatible for vacuums. So Surf Prep has their own vacuum that you can purchase to go with it. We already had a Festool dust extractor that is perfectly compatible. So that's one option. The other option is one that doesn't have a hose connection. And when you get the system, you get so many different pads and mesh screens. We've had ours for 7 months and have been using it diligently, and we still haven't run out and had to buy replacements yet.
You know, that was so confusing for me when we first got it. It's like, when do I use which pad or screen? And that it was really confusing.
So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but thankfully Surf Prep includes this chart that tells you, based on what you're going to be doing, what kind of wood, what you should use for sanding it. Are you trying to get down to bare wood? Are you just trying to scuff sand? And it's going to tell you exactly what you should use. As you can see, we love the Surf Prep, but it's not a magic sander, right? There's no perfect sander. It comes with a few drawbacks.
So the first thing that you need to consider is the price. It's an investment. And we're not going to quote a price because prices tend to change, but it is on the higher end, and we love it, but you're going to have to decide for yourself if the price is worth it.
One other con is that we haven't found any other brands that sell compatible sanding paper or sanding pads, which is not a big deal. It just means that you have to take inventory and pay attention to when you're starting to get low on certain grits or certain types, so that you can reorder, because you can only get them from Surf Prep. You can't just go run to the hardware store when you run out of your favorite grit.
That we know of. We're not sure. Do you know how we said how this throttle is good? Well, it is, but the problem is, well, and maybe this is just Danny and I, because we have weak hands, but you have to hold it down. And
while you're sanding.
Yeah, after a while, it gets really hard to do. You can either do it this way and your thumb gets tired, or you can do it this way.
Your whole hand gets tired.
Yeah, it really, as you're moving it.
And it is just kind of awkward to hold. It's not my favorite sander as far as how I'm holding it while I'm sanding. I like that it's lightweight, but it's a little bit awkward. You know, when we first got this, I think we were thinking it was going to be a miracle sander, and that
no more hand
we
sanding.
wouldn't ever have to hand sand again. And we were wrong, because it's great on rounding edges and corners. It's not so great when you have a very fine detail, very sharp edges, because of the sanding of the pad. It's just naturally going to round them out a little bit. There's kind of workarounds if you want to try to, you know, bend it and do some sanding like this.
But you cannot get into the narrow grooves.
But you can't get into the narrow grooves. It's not a miracle sander, all right? You're going to have to probably still do some fine sanding depending on how you're using it.
Okay, so the other thing is, if you're looking to do some fast, deep sanding, strip off the finish and the stain.
And get down to that bare wood.
This is not that fast. You're much better off using a different sander.
Right, this will do it, especially like the Scream sander. You can do it, but it's gonna take longer, so we usually opt for our big orbital instead.
Except in those detailed places.
So even with those cons, for us, the pros far outweigh those cons. This is amazing for us. It saves our fingers from having to do so much hand sanding, and it's so much quicker than all that hand sanding. It saves us a lot of time.
That's right. It's great for full-time furniture refinishers.
Especially if you do a lot of antiques.
And I would say people who do a lot of cabinet refinishing also.
Absolutely. Okay, Mom, honest feedback, what would you give this out of 10?
Well, with 10 being the highest, like off the charts, I love it, I'd give it an 8. I really like it.
I would give it a 7, and I think that's because I was expecting it to be a miracle sander. I didn't realize I'd still have to do some hand sanding. So I'll give it a 7, but it's still great. I'm really glad we have it. So if you are also thinking this would be a great investment for you, go ahead and order one. We have a link down below in our description, and we have a code for you to save 10% off. But again, if it's not for you, if that's too big of an investment, if it's just not worth it, we totally get it. But if it is, happy surf prep sanding. Aloha!